Are you in charge of organizing a leadership offsite for your company? Then you know how risky it is, how many people will complain about it being boring, about it not being relevant for the business, or that they never learn something. Here are some tips to get the best out of your offsite, make it extremely relevant, fun and energetic, and make sure people all leave to hit the ground running with the new objectives. Here are our 10 tips to run a killer offsite. At the Midstage Institute, we've hosted tons of leadership offsites, and we are experts in facilitating a leadership for tech companies and mid-stage startups. Let's face it, most startup leadership team offsites are absolutely terrible. And yours may be better, but it's probably not great yet. Here are our 10 tips to run a killer offsite that leaves your leadership team ready to hit the ground running at the end. I'm Roland Siebelink, and I'm the CEO and founder of Midstage Institute. We help mid-stage startups and tech companies get through that mid-stage much faster so that they can reach unicorn status with full momentum. We do that through a variety of techniques like thought leadership and tools, CEO and co-founder coaching and assessments, as well as offsites. And here are our best 10 tips of what we've learned in all those offsites we've run for companies over the years. Now, most facilitators will bring in a new framework for people to structure their thoughts, and I'm no different. So here are my 3 criteria for a killer offsite. 1 is real-world impact, 2 is changed perspectives, and 3 is renewed energy. Let's talk about all 3. The most important for a killer offsite is that there's real-world impact and that you plan for that. In other words, how to begin with that end in mind. That is the most important dimension, because why else would you be investing all that money and all that time of highly paid people if there's no real-world impact? This is something we test by 4 different criteria. Goals that push the envelope, leveraging all the feedback you can get, clear outcome expectations, and then also ensuring post-offsite momentum pre-offsite. So let's talk about all 4. Our first tip in the real-world impact bucket is to set top-down stretch goals up front. And what we're looking for here is really that the leader or the CEO sets their expectations of the business, not the workshop, before the workshop even starts, before the offsite even starts. This means setting like what they think is in the ballpark of possibility of ARR growth, of maybe releases, maybe other customer metrics that you want to keep in mind, as well as specific forms of cost control. So the do's here are to connect back to that vision. Every top-down goal should really bring you closer to the vision, but also to set ambitious stretch goals. The do not is assume too much about what is possible and impossible. Let your team tell you that, and also do not play it too safe. Our second tip in the real-world impact category is to gather broad input upfront. Do ask employees and customers, maybe even shareholders and other stakeholders, and do offer third-party anonymity, especially to those people who are actually going to partake in your offsite. Do not, however, jump to actions on any points of feedback, or especially not on many points of feedback, and also don't feel the need to defend yourself against every bad point that you may not have been aware of before. Our third tip in the category real-world impact is to pick a tool or some methodology that you actually want to accomplish and finish by the end of the offsite. And by what the offsite must produce, we really mean like a specific artifact or plan that needs to be filled out by the end of the offsite. Here's our example. It's called a one-page strategic plan that we have helped many companies fill out by 80-90% at the end of even a first workshop. But it can be any other tool. The do is pick one that has been proven itself by many other companies out there. The don't is don't just wing it or have unclear expectations at the end of the offsite. And the last and fourth tip in this category for real-world impact for your offsite is to make sure everything is lined up to hit the ground running after. This is where we see lots of companies make mistakes, but really the success of achieving real-world impact comes by having a well-defined plan of exactly what are you going to do after the offsite, who's going to give input, when are things going to be finalized, and when is everything going to be announced at the team. So do have a post-workshop plan with scheduled deadlines. Do typically run some kind of a catch-ball cadence with next level teams. Do not keep the goals to the leadership team itself, and also do not announce new goals without an opportunity for teams' input, especially middle managers need to have an opportunity for that. Now, our second bucket in our framework for killer offsites is to make sure that people experience changing perspectives. And what we mean with that is that people really leave the offsite with a different view on specific topics and or also on specific people, especially their teammates in the executive team. What we do to achieve that is collaborative agenda setting, frequent team breakouts, as well as expert facilitation. Let's talk about all three. The first thing in providing changing perspectives is to make sure everyone feels it's like their workshop and not just the CEO's or the chief of staff's workshop. So to do that, you basically want to start early and get feedback from everyone on the agenda and accept a lot of suggestions. Is everyone in on that agenda is a key question there. So do insert 2 or 3 team learning topics into the agenda, so things that they feel they need to learn more about. Also do focus on topics impacting the outcome that you've already set for what you want to deliver at the end of the offsite. Do not create an agenda last minute or let alone without team input at all. Also do not automatically repeat the same agenda for subsequent offsites. That just becomes very boring. A second point in providing change perspectives is to break out sub-teams often. Now, many people will say that this is actually about renewing energy, and it is, but it's also really important for people to work together in small teams with as many different people on their leadership team as possible, because that's what confronts them with different perspectives, especially from the people they may not enjoy working with, and that really helps to make a team gel together, but also to get people to see that other people's perspectives can actually be quite valid. So do discuss in breakout groups first, never in plenum, and also do get these groups to have their thoughts written down. So that's not just like an open discussion, it actually means they have to produce something. Do not give more than 20 minutes for a breakout, often actually much less. And also do not keep the same breakout groups throughout. That's a big mistake. You want people to interact with as many other teammates as possible during the offsite. And finally, our tip for changing perspective is to bring in a pro to facilitate the outcome. Now, of course, we're pros, so we would say that, but the reason we really push for this is because we find so many companies have this as the factor that makes their offsite not very successful. It's people who are involved, or maybe even the leader themselves, that try to facilitate, which means they cannot actually do their real job, which is to observe the team. And also, what happens when you have everyone stew in the same soup that they were already in? Are you going to get new perspectives, or are you likely to get these from an outside facilitator that's worked with many companies and can see same patterns appear? So do sit back and observe your team carefully when you can, and hire a savvy facilitator to manage that flow for you. Do not, however, abdicate leadership. You as the leader still decide. It's not the facilitator's job to decide. And also do not have that leader or a team member facilitate things themselves and thereby depriving them of doing their real job. The third bucket in making sure you organize a killer offsite is to keep the team happy by focus on renewing energy. This comes about by pre-offsite preparation, by lots of variety and change of pace, and also to ensure a big sense of accomplishment for the team. Again, let's talk about each point in detail. Our first tip to make sure that there's renewed energy is to make sure that everyone is prepped and ready before the offsite even starts. So this is not just doing their own work, it's actually about getting ready to be in the same mindset as the rest of the team, using the same tools and the same readings. So do interview or survey every participant for ideas before the offsite. Ideally, it's actually that external facilitator that does that. Also, do assign everyone the same and doable pre-reading, which is a mixture of some new chapters as well as the materials from the previous offsite and the conclusions you took then. Do not assume that everyone is on the same page automatically. In our experience, they usually are far from being on the same page. And also do not have any participant or even the leader prep substantial content unilaterally. That just results in PowerPoint overkill and is not helpful for anyone. I know you're wondering, why is this slide suddenly white instead of black? Well, that's actually a little trick I wanted to show you to just provide a lot of variety and little surprises during the day to make sure people stay energized and do not get bored or find your content predictable. Do balance intense sessions with more relaxed downtime and fun, and do keep people active, make them produce things and learn all the time. Do not keep participants in passive audience mode for long, and also do not make participants ever feel that the offsite is predictable. And our third tip in the re-energizing bucket is to provide a big sense of accomplishment. Are you keeping up that momentum towards a big achievement at the end of the offsite? The way to do that is to regularly show progress towards the outcome that you've set for the offsite. So if you have that one-page plan, you would regularly show, or the facilitator would regularly show progress. Today we've already done 40%, tomorrow we'll likely end up at 90% of all of this filled out. Also, dare to cut repeating debates or set aside unproductive discussions that are just leading nowhere, where you can see people switch off. Do not, however, be too polite with participants that keep talking or repeating themselves, even if it's the leader. And do not stick to the agenda too closely either when an elephant in the room is being addressed, because those are often actually the key breakthroughs of a workshop, and an extremely specialized facilitator will actually recognize that and make time for that. So these were our tips to run a killer offsite. We already talked about the buckets of real-world impact and change perspectives. And here in this bucket of renewed energy, we talked about pre-offsite preparation, lots of variety and change of pace, as well as assuring a big sense of accomplishment. So we hope that this helps you to get really good offsite run, or if you want any help with it, feel free to reach out. Our email address is ask@midstage.org. We've run many successful killer offsites for mid-stage companies and tech companies, and we're happy to help you with yours as well. Ask@midstage.org. Thank you for making it all the way to the end of this video. You're amazing. If you want to hear more about many of the companies that we've worked with, or that we see becoming the next big wave of successful startups that are now in the mid-stage, then read our book Midstage Momentum. It's available in all the bookstores and all the Amazon networks around the world, and it contains 40 interviews, all mixed up by theme, of course, with the most successful founders of mid-stage companies today. A warm welcome and a warm recommendation.